Former UPenn swimmer Monika Burzynska, on Lia Thomas, and women's sports. Former UPenn swimmer Monika Burzynska, on Lia Thomas, and women's sports. I shared a locker room with Lia Thomas. Former UPenn swimmer breaks her silence as Trump administration scores victory for women's sports. The battle over transgender athletes in women's sports just reached a turning point, and one former University of Pennsylvania swimmer is finally telling her story. For Monika Burzynska, the controversy surrounding transgender athletes wasn't just a headline, it became her daily reality when she discovered her locker was positioned directly beside Lia Thomas's, the swimmer she had previously known as Lia Thomas from the men's team. Until now, Burzynska has remained silent about her experiences, but the recent settlement between the Trump administration and UPenn has given her the courage to speak publicly for the first time. Will wasn't particularly outgoing, Burzynska revealed in an exclusive interview, noting that their interactions had always been limited to brief exchanges. When the announcement came that Thomas would be transitioning and joining the women's team for the 2021-22 season, Burzynska was caught completely off guard, having assumed Thomas had already graduated. The situation quickly transformed from unexpected to uncomfortable. Once Thomas became a regular presence in the women's changing area, Burzynska developed strategic workarounds, retreating to corner spots, carefully timing her changing schedule around Thomas's shower routine, and eventually resorting to using private stalls or the separate family facilities across the hallway. I wasn't willing to take any chances around Lia, Burzynska explained, clearly referring to her discomfort with the possibility of being seen undressed by someone she viewed as biologically male. The recent news that the University of Pennsylvania has agreed to issue formal apologies to all female swimmers, remove Thomas's name from program records, and implement policies with strict biological definitions for gender categories has brought Burzynska profound relief. It's given me a deep sense of validation, not just personally, but for every woman on our team and throughout athletics, she shared. This decision has restored something fundamental that had been lost, a sense of fairness. Women's accomplishments should belong to women, and protecting the integrity of women's sports truly matters. Despite this positive development, the emotional impact of her experiences remains vivid in Burzynska's memory. Though she identifies with conservative principles, Burzynska emphasized that she had always felt empathy toward transgender individuals before her personal encounter with the issue. I genuinely believed it must be incredibly difficult to feel disconnected from your physical body, to be so fundamentally out of alignment with your identity, she reflected. These issues often seem distant and abstract, something you read about, but never expect to personally encounter, until suddenly you're sharing a locker room with Lia Thomas, and your assigned space is directly adjacent to a biological male. When that becomes your reality, your perspective shifts. You still feel compassion for someone who's clearly struggling, but you also recognize the fundamental unfairness of the situation, Burzynska elaborated. Burzynska's background adds interesting complexity to her story. Growing up in Colonia, New Jersey, she was immersed in predominantly liberal surroundings with strong LGBTQ+ advocacy. This progressive environment continued at the University of Pennsylvania, located in Philadelphia's decidedly blue political landscape. The LGBTQ+ presence on campus was impossible to miss, Burzynska recalled. Rather than displaying American flags, campus buildings and dormitories often flew transgender and rainbow flags. Even now when I visit, I notice this massive skyscraper dormitory displaying what must be the largest rainbow flag imaginable. She suggested this environment might influence vulnerable individuals. For someone confused about their identity, finding a community that appears so welcoming and affirming, constantly telling you that you can be whoever you want to be, that atmosphere could potentially steer people in certain directions. According to Burzynska, the university administration's approach extended beyond mere acceptance to active suppression of dissenting views. This allegation aligns with a lawsuit filed by 3 other former teammates, Grace Estabrook, Margot Kucherovsky, and Ellen Hornquist, which claims university officials pressured female swimmers against publicly voicing concerns about Thomas joining their team. The administration explicitly warned that anyone complaining about Thomas would be permanently labeled transphobic, potentially rendering them unemployable for life, the lawsuit contends. For Burzynska, this intimidation tactics felt familiar. I've experienced pushback for holding conservative or Republican viewpoints since childhood, she explained. Universities today, especially UPenn, tend to embrace progressive ideologies. I'd mentally prepared myself for my perspectives to be unwelcome, as my conservative values are deeply rooted in my faith. When Burzynska attempted to address her concerns with head coach Mike Schnur, she describes an ultimately fruitless 2-hour conversation. He told me, "Monika, I understand your concerns. They are all valid. But none of them should prevent you from having a successful senior year. Except perhaps the fact that Lia is changing in your locker room, and there's nothing anyone can do about that," she recounted. Burzynska pressed further, "How is this fair?" His response was simply, "It's not fair, but if you have issues, come directly to me. Don't discuss it with others. We'll work through it together." Believing nothing would change regardless, Burzynska never followed up on Schnur's offer, though she observed teammates having similar conversations with equally disappointing outcomes. Perhaps most troublingly, Burzynska alleges that university administrators directed swimmers who objected to Thomas's presence to attend what she characterizes as brainwashing meetings, pro-LGBTQ counseling sessions that she personally refused to attend. Though Burzynska has moved forward with her life and career since these events, she acknowledges that aspects of the experience left lasting psychological impacts. She expressed gratitude for the Trump administration's intervention in the matter. Women's rights at Penn were clearly compromised, so it's remarkable that officials investigated the situation, and that President Trump treated it with such seriousness, Burzynska stated. Fox News Digital contacted the University of Pennsylvania regarding Burzynska's statements, but has not received a response at publication time. But here's what makes this story particularly significant. As institutions across the country grapple with balancing transgender inclusion against competitive fairness in women's sports, the UPenn case could establish a precedent that reshapes policies nationwide. What do you think? Does biological sex or gender identity deserve greater consideration in determining athletic eligibility? Should other universities follow UPenn's new approach? Share your perspective in the comments below.